guys, before we get started with this video, I would just like to say if you're enjoying my content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and give that notification bell a big ol' smack for me. It helps the channel out a lot. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's see, what's the next one here? Okay, so I don't think this is really as prominent as it used to be, but I'm sure it's still thrown around. The idea that groups, and I'm going to say this is probably more prominent in cafe groups than a car wash group, but there's this rumor floating around that groups will promote people based on how they look, or how aesthetic they look, so to speak. And that people who don't have expensive-looking items will have a harder time ranking up compared to someone who has, like, expensive limiteds will rank up super quick. That is a rumor that trolls have spread. I'm sure you've heard it. What are your thoughts on that particular rumor?
Yeah, I've definitely heard that one a lot more than I ever needed to. Um, like working at Bakey's, you hear that all the time. But like to me, it was never true. Like, we had specific like guidelines when promoting people, or we had things like point systems and stuff like that. I do think that like some groups might think that way sometimes, but I don't think it's like as prominent of a like idea as people think that it would be. Like I don't think that people actually go and say, "Oh, look at this person's avatar. I think they deserve a promotion." I think it's more like people may look at their avatar and be like, "Oh, they probably know how to do their job," so they look at them more. But I don't know of any groups that I work at that would do that outright.
Okay. So you're saying that, like, it could be a real thing, possibly, but it's heavily exaggerated.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Kat, what is your opinion on the whole aesthetic rumor?
Well, I'm in the human resources department. Rachel is at other groups and was at Washiez. And I have never promoted somebody based on how they look. I've never done that because I don't view it that way. I've never even thought of it that way. I didn't even know the rumor existed.
Oh, so this is the first you've heard of that?
Yeah, I've never even heard of that before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was definitely like a prominent thing like a few years back. It's definitely not a thing anymore.
Well, I think with the avatar types, if you will, I don't know how to word that, but with like UGC and stuff like that, I think that there isn't not a lot of people wear limiteds anymore. That's so weird to say, but not a lot of people like deck out their avatar to make it look like they're rich.
That's
Yeah,
Like headless is
definitely.
one like headless and corp blocks, like the only two I can think of that people wear to like make themselves look better.
Mm. And, oh, that actually might as well ask this one. This isn't on my list, but what is up with that whole headless thing? It's been a trend for a long time. Why do people like being headless so much?
Um, I really don't know. That's actually a really good question. I think back in like 2019, 2020, I was having like a little break from Roblox. Like I was still in my groups, but I wasn't doing as much. And I think during that period is when everyone started liking being headless. And I was completely lost when I got back into the swing of things. I was like, where did this come from? Why are we doing this? And I now own Headless because I am lucky enough to have enough Robux to do that now. But back then I was completely confused.
I am very confused about it too, because I'm just like, you do realize without a head you'd be dead, right? Like you're literally Walking Dead
Yeah.
characters at this point.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that whole headless thing, Kat?
I don't own it, and I'm a big fan of it, but I'm not sure why it's such a trend. Like I also I played Roblox a lot back, like between like COVID. I played it a lot.
Mhm.
Obviously, like I think other people can relate, but even before that, I used to play it with my friends a lot, and like people didn't own it a lot back then, and I can't really recall when people owned it, but I think like Rachel said around COVID time, Halloween, that's when people started liking it a lot more. And I really don't know why. I just think that it fits with people's avatars. I really think that's the only reason. Like, if I had a bunch of avatars saved, that it would fit with mine. Like, people go crazy when this thing comes out. Sorry, Rachel, I'm gonna expose you, but Rachel used to be so, like, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? Her and the former chief human resources officer used to literally talk about it all the time.
About the headless thing?
Yeah, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? It's October 1st. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It used to be so funny. It was like a game. I think they betted Robux on it. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't you do that? Was it you or was it someone else?
It was probably someone else, but I don't doubt it. Someone probably did that.
Oh, that's so funny.
They bet
It was
Robux.
just like, you just want to be trendy. You want to have what everybody else has. And I finally had the Robux to do it, so I had to go with the flow. I had to get it.
I'm sure there's a rumor flying around from trolls being like, oh, you won't get promoted if you don't have headless or something like that. I'm sure trolls are throwing that around, I would guess.
Yeah, that's like very exaggerated though, because I don't really expect people to have like 31k Robux on hand. Like, that's a little much.
Oh yeah, definitely. Alrighty, so this is a pretty basic question, but it kinda is the opposite way around of the whole honest opinion of trollers thing. So why is trolling not allowed in the games like these? Why is it so strictly against the rules?
I think it's just the environment and that people don't like. Each group has a specific way that the like game is supposed to run. So like Washiez, you're supposed to get a car, go through the car wash, drive around, and trollers are kind of like the thing that blocks them from doing that, or like I don't know, changes it a bit. And I think that's kind of like, oh, whoa, don't do that. But yeah.
But then ironically, like you said earlier, it's like, they can help the game, but it's technically against the rules,
Yeah, it's like the dynamic. I don't know.
So, Kat, what is your reasoning on why trolling isn't allowed, or what your thoughts on why trolling wouldn't be allowed?
I think with like, because sometimes like even prior to when we had like management team and like a big base of people who were able to help with trolling in a way, I think it was a major problem within our game that people used our game to hurt other people's feelings or be blatantly disrespectful. And I think the line between that used to be a lot harder than it is now. Like, now there's some peaceful trollers like you, which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really know much about you until last night. I knew about you in your videos about Washies, because it used to get spread around quite a lot. But, I think like the line between differentiating like respectful and peaceful trollers to like havoc starting trollers used to be a lot harder. So I think like just blatantly making it a rule that it wasn't allowed was easier than trying to differentiate it.
Yeah, that's definitely fair, because there can be a lot of gray areas if you don't, have one set rule. If you're like, certain things are allowed and some aren't, people will either unintentionally or intentionally cause gray areas as a way to try to get around the rules, because that's definitely something trolls do. Absolutely things that trolls will do. Okay. Oh, this is a big one. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wondering this one. So what are your thoughts on admin abuse and corruption problems within Roblox industries like yours?
Admin abuse, I would say we definitely don't tolerate it. It used to be a lot bigger issue, like I said earlier, than it is now because of rank selling. But now that we only sell ranks for people that don't have those type of moderation commands, it's a lot easier to, if someone does that, we like know about it. But it's definitely not allowed. Admin abuse is annoying. I don't like it. It makes me stressed, to put it lightly.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. What was the other part of the question?
The of corruption, like people becoming how do I put it, like intoxicated by their power and using it for reasons that may not be just like blatant admin abuse, but it can lead into admin abuse. They start just making decisions based on self-interest rather than the interest of the group as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a problem, and I know a lot of people, Washies is like their first group, And when they come in, they don't have any experience like with that kind of authority with a rank. So when they first get there and they have that type of authority and they start adapting to like how they can like jail people, warn people, that kind of thing. I think to some people it gets to their heads and like they don't really know how to put it aside when it comes to like actually reasoning with things. But yeah, I think it's definitely an issue with some people if they're like just coming into like this environment.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think that's an issue with anything in general, especially people who have positions of power, is that it's very, very easy to let power get to your head. It is ridiculously easy. Like, easier than I think anybody would think. Like, if you don't have any kind of self-control or discipline, it can get to you in a snap. In a snap. And that is,
Yeah.
it's hard to break that cycle once you're in it.
I think that when I first started Roblox, when I was like, I was in Bakies, I think it definitely got to my head a little bit, but I started to like kind of listen to the people around me who had been there a little longer than I have, and I kind of got out of the cycle, but I think some people just don't have that type of like, the people around them can help them and that kind of thing.
Yeah, some people could end up staying stuck in that, and that can end. Yeah, and that can end up with them being very, as we trolls say, corrupt, being corrupt, or I think more times they call them admin abusers than corrupt.
Yeah.
So, Kat, what is your opinion on the issue of admin abuse and corruption within industries like yours?
So I have to agree with Rachel on this one, and I think a word that might easier like explain it would be entitlement. Like I think some people just don't draw the line between being entitled and overusing your rank and powers than like looking at it from like I like to say an empathetic view, and I know that might come across as weird, but sometimes when handling certain situations, I think people just expect it to be like I said earlier, maliciously intended, and I think that like that's a problem. I think people can't really view situations as peaceful or anything like that anymore, and that's a big problem. Like when it comes to admin abuse, it's obviously not tolerated, especially within our game. I can tell you that I don't tolerate it, and it's handled to an extent, and usually 99% of the time it is reported to us and it is handled efficiently.
So you think it's more about people being entitled, and I think what you mean by that is like when people end up getting to a certain rank, they just expect things to go their way all the time. Is that kind of essentially what you're saying?
Maybe. And I don't really want to like say with as a whole of our team
Oh
because a
no.
lot of our team is like a majority of our team actually is a great group of people. And I give major props to them because they handle a lot of like really difficult situations, and sometimes I just think people don't really think about like the other end. I think they only think about their end. And I'm at fault for that too. Like when I was a supervision team, like that was an issue. And for me, like I honestly never really knew when to warn people. Like obviously like the self-explanatory stuff like ramming and cutting and blocking, that type of stuff, like I knew when to, but like with things like trolling and spamming and that type of stuff, I think sometimes people don't know what to do. You know
That's
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's, I mean, I wasn't talking about like your group as a whole. I was like, when I was saying like people get entitled because of their power, I was saying like in the scenario where people do get corrupt, I was saying like you think it's a result of people getting entitled and expecting things to always go their way or the highway kind of thing in the scenario where someone does get corrupt.
No, definitely.
Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here's another big one. Here's another big one. Since this is a group that does it, what are your thoughts on selling ranks? I know that this was kind of brought up earlier, but we'll tackle this as a whole question this time.
Okay. Well, like I said before I came to Washiez, I was never a fan of rank selling. I still am not a fan of rank selling. I don't love it, but I kind of just deal with it. I think for Washies in general, rank selling is kind of like I wouldn't call it a positive, but I also wouldn't call it a negative. I'm kind of in the middle. Like it helps like as far as when it comes to good people who buy ranks
Mm.
and have that opportunity to like get in those positions without having to like sit there and play the game for like days on end. But I do think it does bring up the issue of like people buying the rank just to troll or buying the rank just to cause issues or like buying the rank and not knowing what to do with it, that kind of thing.
Oh, buying it and not knowing what to do with it. I didn't even think of that scenario. That's yeah, that's I didn't think of that. That's another one. Yeah, like they buy it. It's their first time with the controls. They don't know what they should and shouldn't do. And I think sometimes
Yeah.
people are afraid to ask because they're like, "Oh, these are people that are like twice the rank of me. I'm scared to talk to them."
Yeah, for sure.
So, what is your opinion on selling ranks, Kat?
Um, well, I think it would be quite hypocritical if I said it was a negative since I literally bought Shift Leader. Um, however, like back then for me, it was a positive that I bought the rank. Um, I mean, I bought it in July when there really wasn't like the whole like head operator to Shift Leader recommendation stuff. So I think like back then for Washies in particular, I think it was people were buying it because there really wasn't a good outline and foundation of getting promoted from LR to MR.
Mm.
And that was a major thing. For like groups in general, I think the ones with like admin commands I'm not a fan of, as it causes a lot of issues within the group, but I can't say anything for their group. I can say for Washies though, I wouldn't view it as a negative, but all in all, I would not view it as a positive either. But I know on the other end, since I was on the other end, it was a positive for people, is as it was for me. So,
So it would be a good thing for groups that have a difficult time with transitioning from LR to MR, but for a group like yours, where you've said that it is much more or much easier to go from LR to MR, it may not be as necessary, but it's also not really a bad thing, especially since you don't, as far as I know, don't sell any ranks that have admin commands. I don't think you just have shift leader and whatnot. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Alrighty. Why did I put this one in here? This could raise some eyebrows. What is the point of working in a pixelated cafe? That's the one I put down, but this is obviously not a cafe. So, what is the point of working at a pixelated game instead of doing it? Like I don't say it like this, but trollers may put it like this: why do it in Roblox if you can do it in real life? Essentially, is what a lot of people ask.
Um, I've had a lot of trollers like come up to me and ask this question over the years. It's a difficult one to answer, because I've been doing it for so long. It's like, why? But honestly, I think I just kind of find working for these groups and like for me, I really enjoy the aspect of like being in HR and like being able to like organize things and like be a leader in some sort of way. But I find it as like some sort of escape, but also like entertainment, just like any other kind of video game, I guess you could say. Like, I wouldn't consider it like a replacement by any means for like my priorities in real life. But I've been working for these types of groups for like almost 6 years now. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
wow.
And I've definitely had my ups and downs, but I do think like I'm just genuinely having fun with like what I'm doing and like the people that I get to meet through these groups.
That's a good answer. I like that answer. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question then. So, how often do demotions and firings occur at Washies?
Um, I'm
Oh,
not
well,
gonna lie, I'm not sure we can. Rachel might be able to answer that, but I'm not sure if we can
we
elaborate.
can beat around the bush a little bit so we don't go too into detail. But I think before the changes with like the staff panel and like not having mod commands for like every single rank that we sell, I think that helped a lot with like there not being as many punishments. But I think demotions and terminations would be less common than other types of punishments that we do at Washies.
That's good. So there isn't much that you can disclose based on what I'm guessing is like certain rules that are in place about this question.
Yeah, we try to be like not confidential, but just not outright about like punishments and everything like that. But we do have a specific system. We have reminders, which are like they're not official, but they basically just tell them what they're doing wrong if it's like super minor, and if they don't do it after that, they're fine. And then strikes is like a 3 warning system basically, so they can get 3 and then they get demoted. And then demotions or terminations are like major reasons.
Okay. So I'm gonna guess the answer is probably gonna be similar from you, Kat, because it seems like it's just a system that's in place, so it doesn't matter who tells you it; it's just gonna be the same.
Yep, I agree with Rachel.
Okay, this is kind of a similar question to a previous one, but what are your thoughts on when trolling YouTubers make videos at your games? Do you like them? Not like them? Why so? And not just me, like any other YouTuber. This is like from a wide scale, not just me.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Like, honestly, like, for us, I think it gives us a little more. I mean, the player count could go up, so that's always good.
Yeah, it helps.
But, yeah, I think it's good as long as there's nothing like, no malicious intent behind it. Like, oh, like, go raid this place and, like, spam and exploit and all that. As long as it's just trolling, I think it's cool.
Alrighty. What about you, Kat?
Well, I never really saw any other videos other than yours and like you as a YouTuber, unfortunately. So,
You can't really
I
answer the
mean-
question if you haven't seen them, yeah.
stating I don't really know much, I'm not sure what I'd be able to tell you, but I think I agree with Rachel that like you guys are kind of the backbone of our game, as like you guys aren't problematic, if you will. So I think you guys, like she said, make the player count go up, which is definitely good. But like you guys don't have malicious intent 99% of the time, and I think that's a good thing. And I think you guys are like the backbone of our game, which is pretty incredible if you ask me.
Alrighty. Well, that's good. So we are the backbone. You hear that, guys? We are the backbone. Alright, so why do games hate it so... Now, this is not a blanket statement, obviously. I don't know what Washiez policy is on it, but why do you think games hate caps abuse so much? If Washiez doesn't care about it, then why do you think other groups do?
I think caps abuse, I don't know. I've never really had a problem with it, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I think back in 2018, 2019, it was like caps abuse was bad, basically. But I think nowadays most groups don't really care that much. Like, I think there's still some groups who might be a little, like, behind in the times, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I think most of them don't really care that much anymore. But I think caps abuse is fine. Because, like, I mean, when I'm on Discord, I'm like, when I'm like, something's really funny, I'm like screaming. I'm like on the top of my lungs caps, you know? Like, I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I've seen people do that all the time, like using caps when they get excited when their friend comes online, like, and that's like an everyday occurrence. So it's like, why can't we use it in the game then? You know, like obviously if you're flooding the chat, that's another thing. But like you said, back in the day, it was a big thing. Sorry.
Yeah, if it goes like hand in hand with another like problem, like if you're spamming and it's caps, I think the spamming is the issue, not the caps. But like a lot of people get that confused.
All right, so Kat, what is your opinion on caps abuse, and why do you think games hate it so much?
Well, from a standard of Washies, we don't have a rule about it. There isn't a rule against it. I just think because like nowadays communication has adapted to capitals. Like I speak in all caps more than I don't. Like I'm not even kidding. That's not even an exaggeration. Like I'm constantly talking in all caps. Like I think I don't understand the difference between like someone like in our Discord server using it compared to like the training center. I think there's not a difference, and I don't know why groups necessarily have something against it. I think it might depend on what they're saying, and people might moderate what they're saying. However, it's not a rule for us.
Because I can definitely name some games that still hate it. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to, cause any drama or anything. But, I mean, I've probably said them in my videos before. So, and there's a game that I go to quite a bit just for the purpose of abusing caps to tick them off. And I'm sure some people know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here's a question that trolls probably ask a lot, too. And it's probably annoying to hear this one. Why ban people if they can just come back on alt accounts?
Oh, that is a great question. I said sarcastically. I mean, there's people who don't come back on all accounts. I mean, that could happen, but I mean, you just gotta do what you gotta do. And that's one of the only ways to stop it. And if you have to keep banning like alt account after alt account, I think it's just part of the job, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Then so be it. It's just part of the job. Yeah.
Can't really do anything about it, unfortunately, but we have to take into account what situation is happening in front of us and how we're going to handle it. So I think whether or not you're coming back in an alt account, which we can't stop them from doing, is unfortunate on our behalf, but not everybody comes back on an alt account, because like nowadays making a Roblox account isn't as easy as people think it is.
What, have they made it more difficult? I haven't made a Roblox account in a little bit.
Well, I think, especially with certain games, I think some people do it that your account has to be long enough in order to join it.
Oh, old enough? Yeah.
I think that's what the training center, if I'm not mistaken. Rachel might know that, but I think you can't join unless your account's old enough.
Yeah, I know most groups have like some sort of limit on that, whether it be like 3 days or like a week or whatever.
Yeah, that could help a little bit, but 3 days is probably not a lot, because people just be like, oh, I'll troll here this weekend. I'll make this alt now, and I'll troll this weekend, and then it'll be ready,
Right. Definitely.